As you sat here this morning and listened to the message, maybe as you were listening to this song, you started to realize that, yeah, maybe the world can't satisfy. Maybe it can't deliver. Christ can deliver for you. He can satisfy. The Bible's true about this. You can take it from Solomon. You can take it from me. First 19 years of my life, I tried to get satisfaction from the world, and it failed. Take it from your parents. Take it from your grandparents or your great-grandparents. Only Christ can truly satisfy you. Now, I recognize that for many of you, these things just raise questions. It may pique your interest, but there's still questions. What do you do with that? Well, we have a great course for you called the Alpha Course. It's a place where you can learn about Christianity in a way where questions can be asked and answered, and you can kick things around. It's a very safe environment, a very welcoming environment. We want you to hear a little bit about this course, and we thought the best way to do that would be to hear from someone who has been through that course, a man who at one time was living his life without purpose or meaning, a man that was literally chasing the wind before he came to Alpha. So please welcome Reinaldo Rivera as he comes to share. Excellent.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reinaldo Rivera. I grew up in Reading, PA, and thought that my child was pretty normal. My parents had a traditional religious background. To me, we seemed like the Leave It to Beaver family, except that we didn't have the white picket fence or the two-car garage. And I had 7 brothers and sisters as well. I grew up with dreams of becoming someone. But then my father began drinking heavily, and the nice family I spoke of started to crumble right before my eyes. Every night, the man that I looked up to would fight with my mother, and all I wanted to do was get away. I crawled underneath my bed and cried myself to sleep. I tried to understand why this was happening, but found nothing. In my lonely world, I turned to hatred. I hated my parents for being my parents and all that they put me through. I hated myself, and for a long time, I believed that I was cursed and that I was the cause of my parents' fights and divorce. At age 13, we moved to the projects. My mother was left trying to provide for all 8 kids. With my father out of my life, I turned to the streets in search of someone that could give me some understanding of this meaningless life. I became friends with kids in the neighborhood and found out that their lives were not much different than mine. By this time, all I wanted to do was fill the emptiness I felt inside, and it didn't matter to me what I filled it with. My friends showed me around and introduced me to a life that at the time I thought was cool. At 14, I smoked marijuana, and for a few minutes escaped from every bit of hurt I had inside of me. What I didn't realize was the impact this would have on my future. I never took the pain away. It was just a temporary escape. In high school, I became more dependent on the world and drugs. I started drinking and hanging out all night. I would fight with my mom, and she pleaded with me to change, but it was too late. I had found a new family on the streets, and there was nothing my family could say or do. But in reality, my life was out of control, and I hated what I had become. I began having thoughts of suicide. I decided to move to Massachusetts to try to get a fresh start. I ended up meeting a woman. We moved in together and had a son. When the relationship didn't work, I left, even though it was very difficult to leave my son. Then my mother was diagnosed with brain cancer. I was devastated, and I cursed God for allowing this to happen on top of everything else in my life. I spent as much time as I could with my mother, with my mom until she died in the spring of 1997. But I had also started using drugs again, and after she died, I became a full-blown addict. My life was reduced to the animal instinct levels. I was lost. Jail, rehabs, and psychiatric wards became my life. I met another woman and had a daughter, and once again I left. One night, in desperation, I prayed to the Lord, "Lord, If you pull me out of this sinful life, I will follow you all of my days. The Lord answered my prayer, and I was introduced to the drug recovery program at City Team Ministries in Chester, PA. Through City Team, I came to Covenant Fellowship. My first experience was very, very overwhelming. I had never been in a church this size, and I was fearful, nervous, and overwhelmed. But it felt different in a good way. When I walked in this auditorium, the thought crossed into my mind, maybe this is the place I was looking for. Maybe this is home. I was trying to take this all in when worship started. I never worshiped in my life. And for some reason, I began to weep. I think I cried all the way through the service. A man named Ron Knox came up to me and he put his arm around me. He said, "You're going to be okay." When he put his arm around me, it was as though Jesus Christ had his arm around me and my fears disappeared. I kept coming to Covenant and signed up for the Alpha course. On the first night of Alpha, I was a little nervous because I didn't know anyone. This was all new to me, and I was scared to talk to strangers. But I had a lot of questions, like why did God allow this stuff to happen? Why is there suffering in the world, and why did Jesus die? But as I listened to the Alpha message, the answers were being revealed, sometimes even before I asked the question. In my Alpha group, we had some great discussions, and I could relate to a lot of the other folks. I especially felt like the love of God was bonding me with people in my group when we went on the Alpha retreat. Then, on Friday night of the retreat, I turned from sin and gave my life over to God. It was at that moment I knew I finally found what I was searching for all my life. I felt a mountain of sin was lifted off of me, and I knew I was forgiven. I felt like I was born again, a new person. Today, I feel like a child who is growing up spiritually. The meaningless life, hopelessness, and sadness I felt for so many years has been replaced with peace and joy. Since coming to Alpha, God has blessed me in many ways. I have been released from the bondage of addiction and sin. After a 10-year separation, God has restored my relationship with my 10-year-old daughter. And I am in the process of obtaining a high school diploma at City Team. I thank God for sending his son to die on the cross in my place, and I thank God for how he has changed my life through the Alpha course. Thank you.